Hello everyone. This would probably fall under the category of Metalgate. Hadn't read this article before. I might blow a gasket. It's from the New Yorker. The World Needs Female Rock Critics by Anwen Crawford. Sorry. Here we have another generic rock chick. You see that she likes music. Yes, you see. And the tag on the picture says, "The problem for women is that our role in popular music was codified long ago." Yes, because rock music and metal is all about accepting social mores. I'm getting pissed and I hadn't even started reading. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Don't tell anyone, but I don't own any albums by the Rolling Stones. They're just so archetypical, so very rock and roll, and that, I find, can be a difficult thing to admire. Rock music has rarely offered women the same tangible promise of social rebellion and sexual freedom that it has given men, though plenty of women, myself included, have tried all the same to find those liberties in it. Boy guitarists notwithstanding, the journalist Lillian Roxon wrote to a friend in 1966, I don't think I can stand the sight of another bloody electric guitar. I know just how she felt. No. Well, maybe it's because rock music and later on metal music was primarily a masculine pursuit. It expresses masculinity in a very primitive and positive form, and it kind of sits on the connection between the Dionysian and the Apollonian. It helps express some of the masculine urges in a more sublime way than going out and bashing someone's head with a stick. So, rock music rarely offered women the same tangible promise of social rebellion and sexual freedom that it has given men, because it was not an offer to women, it was an offer to men. It was a call to the man's spirit. Go out and explore and fight and take chances and take risks. And biologically and socially, and some of the social factors being a second-hand effect of the biological fact, women were not geared towards that. It was not an offer for women. Plenty of women, yourself included, have tried all the same to find liberties in it. So practically, you're saying that you're a poser. I really hate that word, and I curse myself for using it, but you identify yourself as such. You're saying, well, I wanted to find those libertine ideals that I see as disconnected from the entire picture and from the being of what it means to be a man, and I want to play at being free, so I would just pick and choose like a grocery store and pick that from rock and that from metal and that from goth culture and assemble an amalgamation of dysfunctional identity. You don't have to have an electric guitar to make good rock. You also have not to be a moron. In 1969, Roxon, Italian-born, Australian-raised, an experienced journalist and star of Warhol's Back Room at Max's Kansas City, would publish Lillian Roxon's Rock Encyclopedia, the first of its kind, a marvel of research and critical acumen. Within 6 months of publication, the book had entered its third hardcover print run, and Roxon was profiled in the Times. I'm going to ask the feminist question: why would a woman write about male culture, about male spaces, about male thought? What does she understand in this? But you know what? I retract this question, because I'm not a freaking sexist. The book has now been out of print for decades. Ellen Willis, a contemporary of Roxanne's, was the New Yorker's first popular music critic, beginning in 1968, but a collection of her music writings, Out of the Vinyl Deeps, was not published until 2011, 5 years after her death. This month, the American writer Jessica Hopper, a senior editor at the music website Pitchfork, publishes a book called The First Collection of Criticism by a Living Female Rock Critic. The title is more provocation than statement of fact, but it is not entirely untrue. Books by living female rock critics, or jazz, hip-hop, and dance music critics for that matter, are scant. In an introductory note to her book, Hopper names Roxanne Willis and English journalist Caroline Coon and the anthology Rock She Wrote, edited by Evelyn McDonnell and Ann Powers, as precedents for her own work. The title is not meant to erase our history, but rather to help mark the path. Why is it important that there would be female rock critics? I really don't understand. I fail to see the point of having a specific gender for a rock critic. I would deign to hope that what matters in a rock critic or a metal critic would be the value of their criticism, the acumen of their analysis. But apparently, all that matters is their genitalia. Show me your genitals, and I will call you a whore. That path is not an easy one to discern. The most famous rock music critics, Robert Christgau, Greil Marcus, Lester Bangs, Nick Kent, are all male. Oh no! A music which is mostly favored by males and created by males is mostly criticized by males. It's like statistics are significant. Bangs, who died in 1982 at the age of 33, remains the most iconic of them all. Why? Because his hard-living, drug-taking, sunglass after dark wearing gonzo shtick, it's not a shtick, lady, made him as much of a masculine anti-hero as his rock star subjects were. Maybe the guy wasn't trying to be an icon. Maybe it wasn't a facade. Maybe it wasn't just external characteristics. It wasn't just aesthetics as you interpret them. Maybe that was the guy. Alright, maybe that was what made the guy attract to such genre, to such an environment. But the guy had no musical talent in him. He maybe had a talent for words, so he expressed it in another way. But he lived in the same way. He expressed the same ideals and the same mindset. God damn it. God fucking damn it. It's like sometimes I feel like I'm either psychic or I just heard those arguments so many times I can just pull them out my ass in reverse. The pose doesn't work as well for female critics, for whom displays of bad attitude are seldom tolerated, let alone celebrated. Maybe because when female critics do it, it's a pose, usually, and when male critics do it, it's because they're just fuck-ups. Have you ever been a fuck-up? Well, I'm sure you have, but not in that way. Rock's rebel women, including its writers, are rarely assumed to be geniuses. Often, they are assumed to be whores. maybe attention whores. In a 2002 biography of Lillian Roxon, Mother of Rock, by Robert Millikan, Roxon's young protege, Kathy Miller, recalls being challenged by a male editor who assigned her to write about The Who and asked for a blowjob in return, saying, "What's the big deal? You're a groupie." She replied, "I'm a woman who writes about rock and roll." His answer, same difference. Groupies have proved an enduring stereotypes of women's participation in rock. Worshipful, gorgeous, and despised. Yes, because when you let countless people defile your body in unpronounceable ways, they don't respect the hell out of you. They like having you around, but I'm sure that when you give the band member a blowjob, he's thinking, "Oh, I respect the shit out of her." And as you can see, she didn't challenge his assumption that she did give head to band members. The proper response in that context would be, "Fuck you, you fucking pussy. You couldn't write as good as me. You couldn't write half as good as I can. I'm going to do my work. Don't forget to give me my paycheck later." That's the proper response. But apparently, it's all about externalities with these people. And see how many degrees of separation and convoluted ways to phrase an idea and frame a sentence. It's like she doesn't want you to think about the fact. When there are women in rock, which they're good rock, trust me, they're celebrated. Ever heard of Doro Pesh or the band Girls' School? Ever seen Lemmy reminisce about drinking under the table with Girls' School? Of course not. Of course not. Because that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. "Oh, they're just trying to act like boys. No, 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 no. I want to retain my female identity." It's all about identity with you folks, and not about substance. Earlier this year, Hopper interviewed Björk for Pitchford. Well, like a pornist, if you ever wanted to put your dick in Björk's mouth. In their interview, which was not included in the book, Björk reflected at length upon the ways in which women's labor and expertise, inside and outside of the music industry, go unnoticed. "It's invisible what women do," she said. "It's not rewarded as much." She observed that her male collaborators are typically credited for the sound of her records. Because on stage she mainly sings, there is a widespread assumption that she neither produces nor plays an instrument. "I want to support young girls who are in their 20s now and tell them, you're not just imagining things," she said. Well, Björk, since I'm more of a metalhead, I don't know if I would call you a rocker. I'm not an expert on the field, but most people make these assumptions based on statistics. Right? Any Yahoo could learn how to play guitar in under 2 months. What people know for certain about you is that you sing. Since you do not release, as far as I know, videos from the production process, and people don't bother to read the details on the album, they don't bother to find out who produced their music and who wrote it, then it's their problem. Maybe the problem is with the expectations set by your crowd. Maybe you let yourself become a product. How many women have you seen working in sound production? Really, how many? Let's go on another tangent. When I was about 14, I stood outside science class holding a folder that was decorated with an array of faces which I had carefully cut out from the pages of music magazines. Pointing to a photo of Björk on my folder, a passing boy sneered at me. I bet you don't even know who she is. That would have been around 1995 when the music press was having one of its periodic crushes on women in rock. I did know who Björk was because my mother, who was young and groovy and raised an idiot, had raised me on the Sugar Cubes, the Icelandic band that Björk was a member of before she launched her solo career. I don't remember raising this point with my accuser, but if I had, I doubt he would have believed me. The record store, the guitar shop, and now social media. When it comes to popular music, these places become stages for the display of male prowess. Female expertise, when it appears, is repeatedly dismissed as fraudulent. Every woman who has ever ventured an opinion on popular music could give you the same variation or 100 of my school corridor run-in and becoming a recognized expert, a musician or a critic, will not save you from accusations of fakery. You are a self-proclaimed expert. When I see a woman masterfully playing the guitar and shredding it with vigor, that's all the cred I need. But when I see women in shows or on the webs mainly displaying their prominent physical attributes as a replacement for a personality, I become concerned that maybe they are there because this is a mostly male environment where females are scarce, and that's the only place that would tolerate their dysfunctional personality. And as we can see, you had a dysfunctional parent who raised a dysfunctional child. Yes, I know some hard-rocking, credible metal chicks. And I also got to encounter the not-so-credible metal chicks, and everything in between. What makes a person a genuine rocker or metalhead? It's not external characteristics, but since the only basic criterion, the zero hypothesis people have when they encounter you is your external characteristic, some of which being you being a woman, they make the statistical assumption that you are likely another fake. And if you would notice, men with each other also do this little social dance of asserting credibility. Oh, have you heard about this band? Do you know this band? Have you heard this album? No. Who played in it? Oh, I know that guy. Isn't he from that band? Yes. And on, this little social interaction which establishes a sort of hierarchy. Do you want to be exempt from the little social interaction of hierarchy establishment? Are your feelings hurt? Do you think that because you're a woman they do it to you on purpose? Do you just notice it more when they do it to you and not to others? Don't be a baby, man up! By the way, there are also just numerically more fakes among the male crowd than among the female crowd, just by virtue of statistics. Oh my god, this is running long. The problem for women is that our role in popular music was codified long ago. By whom? By fucking whom? You're a person, you're a fucking individual. And in the most individualistic genre of music, I highly doubt that someone is actually keeping you back. And it was codified in part by the early music press. Then you're a victim, because you were part of the music press. In the effort to prove the bourgeoising rock scene of the 60s a worthy subject of critical inquiry, rock needed to be established as both serious and authentic. One result of these arguments, Rolling Stones versus Muddy Waters, Motown versus Stax, Bob Dylan versus the world, was that women came out on the losing side as frivolous and phony. And I can attest that in metal, some of them are frivolous and phony. Whether a teenage fan or a member of a girl group, women lacked genuine grit. Even female critics thought so. The Supremes epitomized the machine-like precision of the Motown sound, wrote Lillian Roxon in her Rock Encyclopedia. Everything is worked out for them, and they don't buck the system. Judgments like this are still routinely applied to female rock artists today. In Hopper's book, under the chapter heading Fake and Real, appears a 2012 essay on Lana Del Rey, an artist whose look harks back to those big-haired, mascaraed 60s singers and whose career has unfolded beneath a cloud of suspicion as to her credentials, musical or otherwise, as an audience. We make big stink about wanting the truth, but we're only really interested in the old myths, Hopper writes. The myth of women's deceitfulness is one of the oldest. Women wear makeup. Or do you need to make this point clear? For early female music critics like Roxanne and Willis, the flashpoint was Janis Joplin. Joplin, like the Rolling Stones, borrowed heavily from the blues. Her ragged style seemed to mark her as the real thing, but her lonely position as, in Willis's words, the only 60s culture hero to make visible and public women's experience of the quest for individual liberation doesn't even mean anything. Also left her open to attack. Joplin's sexual daring and the contempt she faced for it revealed the limitation and hypocrisies of the counterculture. Writers rape her with words as if there weren't any other ways to deal with her? Roxon wrote. The frustration that many of Joplin's female fans felt at her treatment and their sadness at her premature death was something these women carried out over shortly afterwards into the first stirring of women's liberation. Both Roxon and Willis became involved in the feminist movement. Germaine Greer's The Female Eunuch was dedicated to Roxon, whom Greer described in the dedication as Lillian the Abundant, the Golden, the Eloquent, the Well and Badly Loved, Lillian the Beautiful, who thinks she is ugly. We already know Germaine Greer. She is a nutta. And in case you don't remember, I'll provide links in the description below, Mr. Wayne. Absolutely fucking disgusting. Oh, now we have reached the professional cretins in academia. Please let it be over soon. Academia are a step or two removed from the machismo of the newspaper room. Oh, the machismo of the newspaper room. Imagine a black and white scene. A man in trench coat and fedora walks in and says, "Dollface, make me a cup of coffee and maybe open a shirt or two in your blouse." "Thanks, Dollface. You're an angel." These people live in a fantasy world. I swear. Has proved more accommodating realm for women writing about popular music. Yes, because in academia you can make assertions without basing them in fact. In that sphere, essays and books by writers such as Trisha Rose, Daphne Brooks, Aisha Durham, Elise Eccles, Gail Wald, and Angela McRobbie contribute to a rich and ongoing feminist analysis. Yeah. That's it, folks. What we need is feminist analysis of rock music. Females don't like it. Feminists especially don't like it when men try to invade female spaces and enforce their ideology and understanding and feels on it. But when women come into a field which is predominantly male, it is perfectly okay for them to assert, to demand, to try to change it. Why? What is this colonization of male space? Why is it so important for the feminists? By whom did Joplin receive such scorn for sexual escapades? I used to listen to Janis Joplin for a while. I enjoyed the music. I didn't pass any judgment. I didn't consider, did she write all of that by herself? Did she write the lyrics? No, I just enjoyed a good work of art. I didn't care who she fucked. Maybe that's the problem with feminists. Maybe they're too concerned with genitals and their function because they're 3-year-olds deep in their hearts. Writings by these women appear only intermittently in the mainstream press, but 40 years of critical feminist theory on popular music has slowly filtered into the outlook of younger critics, as Hopper noted in a recent interview with the Hairpin online publishing that has given rise to the ferocious crop of really opinionated young writers writing about race, gender, queerness, body people coming in with a pretty immaculated form. Makes me sick. Hopper, who started publishing her criticism as a teenager in the midst of the early 90s punk feminist upsurge known as Riot Girl, mentioned in the same interview that when she began writing she did not have anything more than high school education. And apparently she failed in that too. Her autodidact tendencies and her energetic conversational writing style form part of another long music press tradition. The looser and more playful side of that 60s push for seriousness, though Hopper's stylistic immediacy does not preclude her from covering difficult subjects like the endemic sexism of punk rock and the banal and pernicious contraries of Miley Cyrus. I can't believe it. I really wish people like you would take a rest. How about taking a rest? Take a little rest. The press. It's always the press. It's always the press and academia circle jerking each other, being irrelevant to what's actually going on in the culture. It's always a phase or two shifted back. You're suffering from severe phase delay, lady. The often neglected path blazed by female music critics intersects with other related writing traditions. Memoir has long been used by female performers to reflect upon the pressures and contradictions of their roles. Kim Gordon's Girl in Band, Tracy Thorn's Disco Queen, and Viv Albertine's Close, 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 Music, 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 Boys, Boys, Boys have lately joined earlier classics like Mary Wilson's Dream Girl, My Life as a Supreme, and Tina Turner's I, Tina to provide female perspectives on popular music. There is also a small but noteworthy strand of contemporary fiction by women that take popular music as primary subject. From Jennifer Egan's Pulitzer Prize-winning A Visit from the Good Squad, with its sleazy music biz manager, to Eleanor Henderson's impassionate treatment of 80s New York hardcore 10,000 Saints, and Dennis Piotta's mysterious Stone Arabia, in which the brother of the narrator chronicles his strictly imaginary success as a rock star. I believe the writer is purposefully conflating popular music and rock music. Rock music at its inception has been a fringe movement, a fringe art movement, you might say. It was not popular, and when it became popular, came Black Sabbath and rained on the party and told them, folks, you're smoking the pipe, you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you're living in the dream. And basically, all the misfits went to either classical music or metal, because that was kind of the point in which rock hung itself. Women's perspective on their experience in popular music is different. Popular music is a product. Rock itself is a product derived from blues and jazz, and was later liberated from its being a product by punk, hardcore rock, stuff like that. Stop thinking about sex, about biological sex. Start thinking about merit. That's the problem with the rock as product, with music as product. The music press and academia together are circle-jerking themselves and sending false signals to both the community and the public about the case in point. So when I read something like this, and if I were just a freaking normie, I would assume that rock, in particular, and popular music in general, are misogynistic to women and exclusionary. However, it seems the meritocracy is indeed sexist. Perhaps fiction and memoir, more than criticism, provides space for female writers to dissect all that is maddening and wonderful about popular music. The spectacle, the chicanery, the beautiful lies it tells us. But there is plenty of need for female music critics yet. Take It Easy Babe, Mick Jagger sang in Under My Thumb, still as glistening a slice of unperpetrated misogyny as it ever was, unredeemed by time or by the millions of screaming girls who wriggled beneath Jagger's commands. Because they have no free will. That's the problem with feminists. They do not accept the will being free and asserting itself on reality. In an essay, blah blah blah, Jagger's crude exhibition of virility were less sexist than the condescending pose of a bohemian like Cat Stevens insofar as rock, she wrote, pitted the teenage girls' incoherent energies against all their conscious and unconscious frustrations. It spoke implicitly for female liberation. I don't entirely agree with Willis's defense of the Stones, but I do recognize the difficult trade-off she describes between the freedom that rock can feel like for a woman and the subjugation that it might celebrate. It's between these boundaries that the female critic works, hoping to clear a path. So basically, the case that she makes, she hadn't made the case. That's the thing. That's the thing. With all those ramblings, Anwen Crawford, I'd never get that name right in the Fesco, doesn't make the case for why the world needs female rock critics. She makes the case for feminists to invade male spaces, and I am certain that feminists would accept this argument. However, a critical thinking layman would see that no argument was made the only thing of substance that was said in this article, and it wasn't positive, but only thing of substance that was said is this. It's the crude exhibitions of virility. This is why we don't need female rock critics. Because rock, and later on metal, has become a place where males could engage in crude exhibitions of virility. They could express in a communal form, in a controlled environment, certain ideas that have been put under lid for over 1,000 years. And this crude exhibition of virility for you is expression of self and exploration of self and being and of actual personality for people who you ignore and erase because you happen to be feminist. Thank you for listening and for watching. This has been Veer Media.